if you really want to have the conversations that build relationships of friendship, mutual support, and enrichment, I think it's really important to make sure that at least some of these are in a quiet setting where the distractions are not pulling participants away from the conversation at hand. Parks totally count. Fire rings totally count. Quiet coffee shops where you can hear each other totally count. And of course, if you have the space yourself, living rooms, backyards, those also count. And that's where I would go. And then part of it is trusting that when people show up and the invitation is clear, I'm inviting you because I invite people to join me in the back of the sports bar to build friendships. When the intention is clear, trust the people who showed up want to build a friendship. And you don't need to worry about figuratively juggling for them to make that 90 minutes rich.
Could I propose an invitation onto that? And it's to create an additional step of designing the conversation or designing the actual, like what we're going to talk about, ensuring social safety, but just pushing a little bit beyond the small talk. For me, it's in the form of even just some basic questions. Again, I shared some more extreme examples, but I've developed a set of, for myself, of questions that I love to talk about that I find like pretty much anyone can bring up that like evokes the right emotion and connection amongst people. But even just have a few questions up your sleeve and being willing to share your answers first, to your point about leading with vulnerability. But that alone can just twist reality just a little bit, saying, hey, we're not just going to talk about what is acceptable for 99% of Americans to talk about.
Well, I want to get more nuanced about that then. You're really skilled, and so it makes sense why what you're doing is working. I've had to learn that for some high percentage of Americans, they need that small talk to get a temperature of the room. And so we need to give it to them. Is the answer. And it may be 15 minutes, but it's not 0 minutes. And then one of the ways I've handled this, there's a couple things to bring up here. I'm listening for what people have emotion about. And I don't care what the data is. It might be that you're really excited about your daughter's snow sports learning. And we could substitute snow sports with reading or cooking. I don't care. I'm looking to find out what you're excited about. And then I'm going to ask more about that. And that I'm not asking because I'm fundamentally curious about kids who do snow sports. I'm asking because there's something there that's exciting to you. And that's going to show you that you can talk about what you're excited about and I can handle it.
What if the person isn't comfortable initially with sharing that kind of information? Not for fear of lack of safety, but they just haven't before.
This is actually what I do. When I'm meeting someone, I don't know anything about them. I don't know if they like me or will like me or whatever. There's always 3 topics I can ask about their lives. I can ask about the past, the present, and the future. So I may not know anything else about you, Zvi, except you and I are standing in this room together because Jennifer invited you and we're both here. But I can ask this question. So Zvi, what inspired you to join us today? Now, here's where the nuance gets. Most people would say, what do you do? And I have a general sense how much you don't want to answer that question. You and everybody else who hears that question. But what do you do is a data question. What inspired you to join us today is an emotional question, because you're now going to have to go back through your experience and find the emotion inspired and then figure out how that's connected to now. You may want to do that. Fair enough. You may have heard a different question because it's so weird. Someone asked you what inspired you to join us today. But notice I've at least given an opening for you to give me a non-data question, but an emotional question. And at no point did I say, hey, look, we're 2 dads standing in a room. Let's talk about our feelings. And I didn't do that. I said, oh, I don't know you. I'm curious, what inspired you to join me and Jennifer today? And then you're going to give me an answer. So inspired was always in the past. No matter what you're doing, you were inspired by something to do it. And then when you start answering, I now know it's likely you have some positive emotions around that. And I'll ask more.